Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brett Keene from God TV Radio. Make sure you check out my website, godtvradio.com. Connect with me on Facebook and Twitter. And also tonight, I'm going to be doing a live hangout. Everybody, no matter how old you are, is included. All you have to do is simply click on the link in the description of my broadcast, and you can come in and talk to me. All I ask is that you behave yourself and try as you might to be nice. I'm going to tell you guys a story, if you don't mind. It's a true story. Whenever I was a young man, and I was going to school, I found myself in a pretty tough scenario. I grew up in St. Louis, and I was put in a school that was mostly African American, mostly black kids. And I was one of the few white kids that was actually going to the school. And I stood out like a sore toe. A lot of people enjoyed beating the living piss out of me. A lot of people enjoyed hurting me. There was a lot of psychological torture. And I was called cracker, stupid white boy, everything that you could possibly imagine. I myself, I didn't see any of these kids as any different than myself. I seen us all as people. I was quite self-aware then, just as I am now. And I just realized that because I was different, this is the reasoning they had to go after me, and for whatever things that were going on in their life they needed to project. So after months and months of psychological as well as physical abuse, people wanting to fight me, going home and having to wipe blood off of my face and arms and legs, depending if I was knocked down to the ground and pounded on repeatedly, I started to feel quite hopeless, because I would come home to a mother who was sick mentally as well as physically, and to a father who had a very difficult time dealing with all of this, who would also be extremely abusive. At a very young age, I come to a point where I started feeling like there wasn't no hope in the world, that there wasn't really no point. And after my mother got extremely sick and my father ended up leaving, I went through countless foster homes where I ran into more children who were extremely vicious and horrible. Kids that were either abandoned or their parents died and they didn't have anybody to go to. So one day, my grandmother, my real grandmother, ended up taking custody over me, in which I lived with her, and then I went to a school in the country. And in the country, there were more white kids than there were black kids. And unfortunately, the roles at this point were reversed. Now it was the black kids who were getting picked on, and they were getting treated like shit. And I remember that in the country school, they had a couple classrooms for kids that have behavior disabilities as well as learning disabilities. And of course for kids who had physical disabilities, and sometimes they combined the classes. Well, one day we did this like field trip type thing where we all went swimming. And I remember noticing that there were 5 white kids who were trying to beat the living piss out of a young black boy who had a disability where he just simply couldn't comprehend what was happening to him. He didn't know why they were hitting on him. Sometimes he actually laughed along with them whenever they would slap him and hit him and call him names. They would call him the N-word. And he thought that they were just trying to be his friend. He didn't understand what was happening to him. And they were telling him to climb up on a slide that would go into the pool. Well, the kid didn't know how to swim. And he thought that it would make them happy if he listened to what they said, because he had a big smile on his face whenever he did it. He climbed up on the slide and he went into the water. And immediately on plunging into the water, he began drowning. Now, I have to admit, when I first got into the school, and I was a part of this, and I seen that now the roles were reversed, there was a side of me that said, wow, whenever I was going to this other school, black kids, all they did was beat the shit out of me and make fun of me all the time. Maybe I should just sit back and do nothing. Maybe I should just sit back and allow, black kids to pay for what it is that happened to me in the other school. And I started realizing that if I had that type of thought process, I wasn't no different than them. I wasn't no different whatsoever. So I jumped into the water and I grabbed the kid the best I could, and he almost drowned me too. because he couldn't breathe. He was suffocating, and he started to comprehend, obviously, in that moment of dying, because you're literally dying whenever you're drowning, that he's trying to grab anything and everything. And I wasn't as strong as I am now, so I tried the best I could to drag him up to the cement. He struggled and he fought all the way. He even hit me a couple times, even clutched onto my neck, and I thought that I was going to end up sinking and drowning along with him. But somehow, through my strength and through my willpower, I managed to get him up on the concrete. And I started pushing on his chest and everything to help him get some of the water out. And I said, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I seen those 5 kids just laughing their ass off at the young man. Well, it angered me so bad whenever the kid was trying to find his composure and get himself so back, that I went over to those 5 kids and I ended up grabbing one of them and slinging his ass off into the pool and beating the shit out of the biggest one. So much rage and so much anger, so much hopelessness at watching what people do to each other. And from that day forward, I realized that no matter where I go in this world, no matter who I try to hang out with, no matter who I try to impress, no matter who I try to fulfill their expectations, I was never going to fulfill anything. I was just going to have to be myself, and I was going to have my own moral code. I was going to have my own honor, or I'll just end up being just another useless fuck like everybody else. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to be those white kids, and I didn't want to be those black kids. I didn't want to be the guy who wants to be popular, and I didn't want to be the guy who was spineless, who just sat there and watched the shit go down and do nothing. And I didn't want to be that angry kid who's pissed off at the world because he's been throttled on repeatedly, and because he's been hurt so much that now he finds gratification off of the suffering and the drowning of other children. I didn't want to be that. So I struggled to find my own identity. I struggled to find my own spine. I struggled to find my own courage in this world. And I realized that as I got older, a lot of people don't change. And a lot of the world doesn't realize it, but they too are drowning. They just don't know it yet. They can't comprehend that they're drowning, every one of us. And we have 2 choices. We can either let each other drown, or we can find the fucking courage to grab onto the man or woman next to us, or the kid next to us, and make it to the surface together, and try to come up with some goals. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be having a live chat at 7 p.m. on my other channel, God TV Radio. Make sure you go over there and subscribe, comment, and rate. And join me, please.